What's up, guys? It's Rob here, and today we're going to be talking about DWAC as well as PHUN stock. Both of these stocks are up big, and some people have some questions about why they're up big, what the details of the DWAC deal are that are actually causing these stocks to rise. So we're going to be breaking down some of the key points of the pipe deal that's going to be causing the rise in DWAC stock, as well as just generally explaining it and talking about some of the catalysts that DWAC has going for it. So first of all, we'll take a look at DWAC on the chart just to see that obviously when this news came out, it was received very well and the stock pumped up in the after hours. It continued pumping up even more in the after hours, up to highs of $59.39. It has since subsided a little bit, finding some support at $46. It's currently trading around $48.50, so we'll see where it goes from here on out. And PHUN as well has done a very similar thing. It's followed a very similar pattern. It actually was not halted as DWAC was in the late hours of the trading day yesterday, so we continued trading. DWAC, on the other hand, got halted on the 351. At 351, they got halted until close, and then they started trading again. But we will bring up the article explaining what this deal is, what this PIPE deal, private investment and public equity deal is. We're going to talk about the $1 billion that Donald Trump is trying to raise. So basically, I'll read off some of the highlights of this article, some of the bullet points that are important to understand in case you guys missed my last video. But basically, Donald Trump's new social media venture is seeking to raise up to $1 billion by selling shares to hedge funds and family offices. So they already stand to receive $293 million from the initial deal when DWAC started trading, when they initially got acquired by DWAC, or at least agreed to get acquired by DWAC. They initially received $293 million from that deal, and they're set to receive that as long as the deal completes, but they are now seeking an additional $1 billion at a valuation, bringing them to a valuation close to $3 billion, which is actually a very steep increase compared to the previous valuation they were going to have with the original DWAC deal, which would have valued Trump Media at $875 million. So they went from under $1 billion to about $3 billion. So we'll see how much more they can rise. If DWAC keeps doing well, they may decide to do another one of these. If it really starts pumping up big, we'll see if they decide to do another one. But when DWAC shares initially debuted, they were valued at $10 each in the deal with Trump Media, and the PIPE deal, the new deal that's coming out, would value Digital World shares closer to their recent prices. And there are a couple of different sources that are saying different things about the prices, right? This article is saying that Digital World shares in this PIPE deal may be valued based on a 20% discount of their 10-day VWAP, or volume weighted average price, which would calculate out, I believe, if you look over the past 10 days, I believe the volume weighted average price is around $36. At least that's what someone was saying online. And we'll see if that's accurate, if that's the case for DWAC, if they actually use this calculation. Another article from MarketWatch, granted, I think it's a more recent article, came out a couple hours later, and it said DWAC representatives are trying to sell the PIPE shares for $30 a piece. So we'll see. One way or the other, it's around 30, either 30, 36, somewhere around there, maybe a little bit higher. We'll see, depending on if they'd use the VWAP calculation or not. But that's what you can guess DWAC shares are going to be selling for to accrue that additional $1 billion in value. Now, overall, it's probably a pretty good thing for DWAC over the long term, the fact that they're able to get an additional $1 billion in capital, because initially they only had the 293 to work with, 293 million to work with, and this is triple that. So they're more than tripling what they're able to work with to develop through social, to potentially acquire other companies, right? They could potentially park some of that cash in investments. It's going to be a very good thing overall, I think, for them to have that additional cash, and it justifies a higher DWAC price over the long term, I think, because DWAC was initially, when it publicly debuted, it was initially trading at very high valuations, which weren't necessarily fundamentally based. A lot of hype may have had to do with these very high prices, and they did continue trading at relatively high prices, right? Compared to the $10 per share that people were expecting, at least when the deal was made, that they should be trading at. However, as there was a lot of demand, a lot of retail demand, it seems, for DWAC shares, the price rose a lot, and that means that likely True Social, when it launches, it could have potentially a lot more users than people were expecting it might initially have, than most new social media companies would be able to have from just launching without doing much marketing. So it does justify a somewhat higher valuation on that front, but also now that they're attaining this additional capital, that will further increase their justifiable valuation because they'll have a lot of cash on the balance sheet, and that's a good thing for companies to have, especially new companies. It means they likely won't need to do too many offerings in the near-term future because they'll already have a bunch of cash. Maybe they'll choose to if they see the stock price going to a level that they don't think is justifiable. They might choose to do another offering. We'll see. Obviously, investors are happy about this offering, right? Because it means they are going to be attaining a lot more capital than was initially thought. And investors have reacted very strongly in a positive way to this news. Granted, it has seen a little bit of a sell-off since the highs of near $60, but we are still definitely up since the news broke when we were around 39 bucks. We're at 46 right now. So investors have definitely taken to this news positively. Now, there are a couple of things to consider when looking at DWAC. Mainly the short interest, right? We have to look at the short interest as usual. We see that there is a fairly significant short interest, right, of 9.94%, almost 10% on DWAC. And this is something that people need to consider, that there are a lot of institutions out there that want DWAC moving down. Now, they have used a lot of their ammunition to stop DWAC from rising, right? They've pushed it down with some shorts. 99.88% of the available shares to short have been shorted. That's what the utilization is of the available shares to borrow, at least, have been borrowed. So a ton of shorts are out there, and it accounts for about 10% of the free float, or 2.98 million shares. Now, obviously, these shorts, a lot of them were building up their positions when DWAC was at much higher prices. In fact, you can look. When they first started covering the short interest on the stock, it was at 11%, and a lot of those shorts were coming in probably at $100, at $70, at $80, maybe even at $60 if they were shorting when it was pretty low. And as it continued to drop, some shorts ended up covering, but most of the shorts are still in it, right? We've still got about 10% of the shorts, 10% of the free float being shorted. And that means that most of the shorts are still in this thing, still waiting for a bigger drop. They're obviously feeling some pain today. It was bigger pain in the after hours yesterday. But what's notable is that those shorts will need to be squeezed out at much higher prices than where we are right now. Because if they were shorting at $50 or $60 or $70 or even $100, then you're going to need to get DWAC much higher than that if you actually want to squeeze the shorts out, because they're currently up on money. And even if we raise the price another $10 to $56, they'll still be up on money, right? They won't actually be suffering losses until you get DWAC up above 60, 70, 80, maybe 90, or even $100 until you actually get those shorts to start feeling some pain. And that's what we'd really like if we wanted to squeeze some of them out. Obviously, that's more of a mid to long-term thing. DWAC has been sinking a bit. Those shorts are nowhere near being squeezed out right now. We would need DWAC to rise quite a bit, and potentially we'll get some catalysts, such as Trump speaking about it, or even the true social beta coming out that could launch DWAC up higher. But we'll have to see what happens with these shorts when that happens. Now, DWAC and PHUN also have been doing very well in the in today's trading as well. You can see they initially had a big spike up when this news came out around 4 and 5 yesterday, but they've had even more attention on Google. Even more people have been looking at them today, which means potentially more investors are getting in DWAC for the long term, right? A lot of investors might not have liked that DWAC had been hyped up so much and that it didn't seem to have as much of a fundamental valuation as a hyped up valuation, right? And now that they're raising additional capital, potentially some investors will be thinking now is a good time to get in over the long term as a long-term buy, since they'll actually have something on their balance sheet that justifies a slightly higher value than where they initially were offered. And you can also see, I mean, it's not just Google that DWAC is trending on, it's StockTwits as well. Well, not StockTwits, sorry. We'll talk about StockTwits in a second, but it's also ApeWisdom.io. DWAC is up 540% mention-wise, 381% upvote-wise, and the amount of users who have been mentioning it are up 438% as well on Reddit. So a lot of people talking about DWAC on Reddit. We're at spot number 7, so we're in the top 10 stocks being discussed on Reddit. PHUN is nowhere near the top. I think it's around spot number 70. I don't even know if I'll be able to find it. But there we go, spot number 67. So it is up higher as well, but still has a long ways to go before it's one of the most talked about stocks on Reddit and Wall Street Bets. And on StockTwits, though, these stocks do take spots number 3 and 4. DWAC in number 3, PHUN in number 4. A ton of mentions on both of these companies on StockTwits. A lot of people are talking about them on all kinds of platforms, right? StockTwits, ApeWisdom, and Google. A lot of new people are potentially looking into these stocks as long-term buys, especially PHUN, which could be becoming more and more promising by the day, right? Because they have had the launch of PHUN. They are selling computers. They have a business model that's not only tied to Trump, but benefits when DWAC goes up as well. So there's a bunch of things that could potentially be driving up PHUN. I am becoming more and more bullish on it as I learn more about it. But something that could really hurt PHUN is if news comes out that they aren't actually tied to Trump's social media and Technology Group, that could actually be bad for them, right? If it turns out that the rumors were not true, that they won't be working with TMTG in the future, then that could actually be bad for the stock price, and it could cause a bit of a crash. So that's something to watch out for with PHUN stock, at least, and something that I'm considering with DWAC. Something that I'm considering is I'm looking at the options, and I'm noticing that the options for DWAC out to 2023 are pretty darn expensive. In fact, if you look at the $40 put options, you could be selling them for over $20, right? So you're essentially saying that in 2023, DWAC you think will be trading above $20. If you sell this $40 put for a $20 premium, you're essentially going to be making money if DWAC is over $20 at that time. So it is a potential trade that I'm thinking about. Obviously not financial advice. I'm not recommending anyone mess around with options or sell options, but it is something I'm thinking about. I'm potentially going to be waiting, though, until DWAC changes its ticker symbol to TMTG, to Trump Media and Technology Group, because I am wary of holding stocks and especially of holding options through transition periods where they actually change their ticker and make these acquisitions. I am a little bit wary of that, as I'm not entirely sure how the options would be affected. Hopefully it wouldn't affect them all that much, and all that would change is the ticker. We'll see what happens with TMTG when all of those additional shares are added to the float, when they actually start trading at the valuation of Trump Media and Technology Group instead of just DWAC, which you can see right now, DWAC has a market cap of $1.761 billion. And that doesn't even account for the new shares from the PIPE that will be added in. So we'll definitely be seeing a much larger market cap when the deal actually completes, and when TMTG is fully fledged as a company and is trading on the markets. We're going to see a much larger market cap and probably a much larger float. So we'll see what happens with that. We don't know exactly what the float's going to be yet, how many shares are going to be sold, but we will have to see on that. And that's why I'm a little bit wary of selling options at the moment. We're going to see what happens with the option prices. I would consider getting in on this trade, though, maybe sometime soon, just because these options are so juicy and are so pumped up in price, as the stock has been dropping quite a bit over the past 30 days. And there is a lot of volatility surrounding it, meaning that the options are going to be very expensive. We're looking at, I think, 163% IV score. So it's a pretty significantly volatile stock, and I am considering an options trade on it, but that's just something that I'm looking at. Obviously, not financial advice. I'm not recommending anyone buy or sell this stock. I'm just giving you guys my opinion on it, breaking down some of the news for you guys, and that's all I really have for you on DWAC and PHUN. Just some things that I'm considering, and not recommendations for you guys. So if you enjoyed the video, feel free to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. That would be much appreciated. But other than that, guys, have a great day. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.